Russian hacking and dumping operations of the Mueller report. We will be going through the rest of this document, but it is quite lengthy. Just so you know, 448 pages. Hey, what up, Tommy Gaines? Appreciate the follow. We will be going through the whole of this document, just so you know. So if you stick around, we really do appreciate it. Jumping right in, yeah, we will be back next Saturday as well, doing a review of this one. Got to respond to the chats as well. Boom. Chatting everybody. We're doing everything. Beginning in March 2016, for those following along, we are on page 44 of the PDF, 36 of the document. Russian hacking and dumping operations. Beginning in March 2016, units of the Russian Federation's main intelligence directorate of the General Staff, the GRU, hacked the computers and email accounts of organizations, employees, and volunteers supporting the Clinton campaign, including the email account of campaign chairman John Podesta. Starting in April 2016, the GRU hacked into the computer networks of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, DCCC, and the Democratic National Committee, DNC. The GRU targeted hundreds of email accounts used by Clinton campaign employees, advisors, and volunteers. In total, the GRU stole hundreds of thousands of documents from the compromised email accounts and networks. The GRU later released stolen Clinton campaign and DNC documents through online personas, quote, DC Leaks, end quote, and, quote, Guccifer 2.0, end quote, and later through the organization WikiLeaks. The release of the documents was designed and timed to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election and undermine the Clinton campaign. The Trump campaign showed interest in the WikiLeaks releases and, in the summer and fall of 2016, redacted. WikiLeaks' first Clinton-related release, redacted again. The Trump campaign stayed in contact, redacted, about WikiLeaks activities. The investigation was unable to resolve, redacted, WikiLeaks' release of the stolen Podesta emails on October 7th, 2016, the same day a video from years earlier was published of Trump using graphic language about women. The investigation, I'm reading over that to make sure I don't miss anything important in the redacted. So the investigation was unable to resolve blank WikiLeaks' release of the stolen Podesta emails. I don't know. It seems sketchy enough to me. I feel like that'd be enough for them to vilify us, but who am I? If you're just watching now, we really appreciate you. Feel free to follow, comment, all the good stuff. This is part A? No, part 3, section A, subsection 1. So section A, GRU hacking directed at the Clinton campaign. Subsection 1, GRU units target the Clinton campaign. 2 military units of the GRU carried out the computer intrusions into the Clinton campaign, DNC, and DCCC. Military units 26165 and 74455. Military unit 26165 is a GRU cyber unit dedicated to targeting military, political, governmental, and non-governmental organizations outside of Russia, including the United States. The unit was subdivided into departments with different specialties. One department, for example, developed specialized malicious software, aka malware, while another department conducted large-scale spear phishing campaigns. Redacted. A Bitcoin mining operation to secure Bitcoins used to purchase computer infrastructure used in hacking operations. Military Unit 74455 is a related GRU unit with multiple departments that engaged in cyber operations. Unit 74455 assisted in the release of documents stolen by Unit 26165, the promotion of those releases, and the publication of anti-Clinton content on social media accounts operated by the GRU. Officers from Unit 74455 separately hacked computers belonging to state boards of elections, secretaries of state, and U.S. companies that supplied software and other technology related to the administration of U.S. elections. And remember, they refer to this as the Russia hoax. This is the hoax, that Russia had nothing to do with anything going on in the election. Beginning in mid-March 2016, Unit 26165 had primary responsibility for hacking the DCCC and DNC, as well as email accounts of individuals affiliated with the Clinton campaign. Unit 26165 used Investigation Technique Redacted to learn about Investigation Technique Redacted, different Democratic websites, including Democrats.org, HillaryClinton.com, DNC.org, and DCCC.org, redacted investigative technique, began before the GRU had obtained any credentials or gained access to these networks, indicating that the later DCCC and DNC intrusions were not crimes of opportunity, but rather the result of targeting. GRU officials also sent hundreds of spear phishing emails to the work and personal email accounts of Clinton campaign employees and volunteers. Between March 10, 2016 and March 15, 2016, Unit 26165 appears to have sent approximately 90 spear phishing emails to email accounts at HillaryClinton.com. Starting on March 15, 2016, the GRU began targeting Google email accounts used by Clinton campaign employees, along with a smaller number of DNC.org employee email accounts. The GRU spear phishing operation enabled it to gain access to numerous email accounts of Clinton campaign employees and volunteers, including campaign chairman John Podesta, junior volunteers assigned to the Clinton campaign's advance team, informal Clinton campaign advisors, and a DNC employee. GRU officers stole tens of thousands of emails from spear phishing victims, including various Clinton campaign-related communications. Section 2 of Part 3. It's getting confusing. Or subsection 2? Yeah, subsection 2. Intrusions into the DCCC and DNC networks. Subsection A, initial access. By no later than April 12th, 2016, the GRU had gained access to the DCCC computer network using the credentials stolen from a DCCC employee who had been successfully spear-phished the week before. Over the ensuing weeks, the GRU traversed the network, identifying different computers connected to the DCCC network. By stealing network access credentials along the way, including those of IT administrators with unrestricted access to the system, the GRU compromised approximately 29 different computers on the DCCC network. Approximately 6 days after the first hacking into the DCCC network, on April, DC3 or something. On April 18, 2016, GRU officers gained access to the DNC network via a virtual private network (VPN) connection between the DCCC and DNC networks. Between April 18, 2016 and June 8, 2016, Unit 26165 compromised more than 30 computers on the DNC network, including the DNC mail server and shared file server. Subsection B, implementation of malware on DCCC and DNC networks. Unit 26165 implanted on the DCCC and DNC networks two types of customized malware known as, quote, X-Agent, end quote, X-Tunnel, end quote. Mimikatz, a credential harvesting tool, and Rare.exe, a tool used in these intrusions to compile and compress materials for exfiltration. X-Agent was a multifunction hacking tool that allowed 26165 to log keystrokes, take screenshots, and gather other data about the infected computers, for example, file directories, operating systems. X-Tunnel was a hacking tool that created an encrypted connection between the victim DCCC, DNC computers, and GRU-controlled computers outside the DCCC and DNC networks that was capable of large-scale data transfers. GRU officers then used X-Tunnel to exfiltrate stolen data from the victim computers. So they compromised it, and then they took what they could. Sorry, a little break to keep the voice healthy. To operate X-Agent and X-Tunnel on the DCCC and DNC networks, Unit 26165 officers set up a group of computers outside those networks to communicate with the implanted malware. The first set of GRU-controlled computers, known by the GRU as, quote, middle servers, end quote, sent and received messages to and from malware on the DNC and DCCC networks. The middle servers, in turn, relayed messages to a second set of GRU-controlled computers, labeled internally by the GRU as in, quote, AMS panel, end quote. The AMS panel, redacted for investigative purposes, served as a nerve center through which GRU officers monitored and directed the malware's operations on the DNC and DCCC networks. The AMS panel used to control X-Agent during the DCCC and DNC intrusions was housed on a leased computer located near redacted Arizona. Heavily redacted investigative technique. The Arizona-based AMS panel also stored thousands of files containing keylogging sessions captured through X-Agent. These sessions were captured as GRU officers monitored DCCC and DNC employees' work on infected computers regularly between April 2016 and June 2016. Data captured in these keylogging sessions included passwords, internal communications between employees, banking information, and sensitive personal information. Remember, the Russia hoax. Nothing happened. Don't look here. Don't look behind the curtain. Subsection C. Theft of documents from DNC and DCCC networks. Officers from Unit 26165 stole thousands of documents from the DCCC and DNC networks, including significant amounts of data pertaining to the 2016 U.S. federal elections. Stolen documents, including internal strategy documents, fundraising data, opposition research, and emails from the work inboxes of DNC employees. The GRU began stealing DCCC data shortly after it gained access to the network. On April 14, 2016, approximately 3 days after the initial intrusion, GRU officers downloaded RAR.exe onto the DCCC's document server. The following day, the GRU searched one compromised DCCC computer for files containing search terms that included, quote, Hillary, end quote, DNC, end quote, Cruz, end quote, and, quote, Trump, end quote. On April 25th, 2016, the GRU collected and compressed PDF and Microsoft documents from folders on the DCCC's shared file server that pertained to the 2016 election. The GRU appeared to have compressed and exfiltrated over 70 gigabytes of data from this file server. The GRU also stole documents from the DNC network shortly after gaining access. On April 22, 2016, the GRU copied files from the DNC network to GRU-controlled computers. Stolen documents, including the DNC's opposition research into... What? Stolen documents included the DNC's opposition research into candidate Trump. Between approximately May 25th, 2016 and June 1st, 2016, GRU officers accessed the DNC's mail server from a GRU-controlled computer leased inside the United States. During these connections, a whole bunch of that shit's redacted, lols. During these connections, Unit 26165 officers appear to have stolen thousands of emails and attachments, which were later released by WikiLeaks in July 2016. Larger section B? I don't know at this point. We're still in part 3, section B. The GRU's operations extended beyond stealing materials and included, it's called dissemination of hacked materials, and included releasing documents stolen from the Clinton campaign and its supporters. The GRU carried out the anonymous release of 2 fictitious online personas that it created through 2 fictitious online personas that it created, DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0, and later through the organization WikiLeaks. Subsection 1, DC Leaks. The GRU began planning the releases at least as early as April 19th, 2016, when Unit 26165 registered the domain dcleaks.com through a service that anonymized? I know I'm saying it right. Lols. The registrant. So basically they were able to stay anonymous. I'm glad that we were able to get the information that we do have, and it is available to us, even if they do say it's all bullshit and you don't have to read this. I'm glad that we have this much information as to what was going on. Holy shit. Unit 26165 paid for the registration using a pool of Bitcoin that it had mined. The dcleaks.com landing page pointed to different tranches of stolen documents arranged by victim or subject matter. Other dcleaks.com pages contained indexes of stolen emails that were being released, bearing the sender, recipient, and date of the email. To control access and timing of the releases, pages were sometimes password protected for a period of time and later made unrestricted to the public. Starting in June 2016, the GRU posted stolen documents onto the website dcleaks.com, including documents stolen from a number of individuals associated with the Clinton campaign. These documents appeared to have originated from personal email accounts, in particular Google and Microsoft accounts, rather than the DNC and DCCC computer networks. DC Leaks victims included an advisor to the Clinton campaign, a former DNC employee and Clinton campaign employee, a former DNC employee and Clinton campaign employee, and 4 other campaign volunteers. The GRU released through dcleaks.com thousands of documents, including personal identifying and financial information, internal correspondence related to the Clinton campaign, and prior political jobs, and fundraising files and information. GRU officers operated a Facebook page under the DC Leaks moniker, which they primarily used to promote releases of materials. The Facebook page was administered through a small number of pre-existing GRU-controlled Facebook accounts. GRU officers also used the DC Leaks Facebook account, the Twitter account @DCLeaks, and the email account dcleaksproject@gmail.com to communicate privately with reporters and other U.S. persons. GRU officers using the DC Leaks persona gave certain reporters early access to archives of leaked files by sending them links and passwords to pages on the dcleaks.com website that had not become public. For example, on July 14, 2016, GRU officers operating under the DC Leaks persona sent a link and password for a non-public DC Leaks webpage to a U.S. reporter via the Facebook account. Similarly, on September 14, 2016, GRU officers sent reporters Twitter direct messages from @DC Leaks with a password to a non-public part of the dcleaks.com website. The dcleaks.com website remained operational and public until March 2017. Subsection 2, Guccifer 2.0. On June 14, 2016, the DNC and its cyber response team announced the breach of the DNC network and suspected theft of DNC documents. In the statements, the cyber response team alleged that Russian state-sponsored actors, which they referred to as, quote, Fancy Bear, end quote, were responsible for the breach. Apparently, in response to that announcement, on June 15, 2016, GRU officers using the persona Guccifer 2.0 created a WordPress blog. In the hours leading up to the launch of that WordPress blog, GRU officers logged into a Moscow-based server used and managed by Unit 74455 and searched for a number of specific words and phrases in English, including, quote, some hundred sheets, end quote, quote, Illuminati, end quote, and, quote, worldwide known, end quote. Approximately 2 hours after the last of those searches, Guccifer 2.0 published in its first post, attributing the DNC server hack to a lone Romanian hacker and using several of the unique English words and phrases that the GRU officers had searched for that day. So that's their proof that they know that they did it. I love that we have this much info. Remember, it's all a hoax, right? That same day, June 15, 2016, the GRU also used the Guccifer 2.0 WordPress blog to begin releasing to the public documents stolen from the DNC and DCCC computer networks. The Guccifer 2.0 persona ultimately released thousands of documents stolen from the DNC and DCCC in a series of blog posts between June 15, 2016 and October 18, 2016. Released documents included opposition research performed by the DNC, including a memorandum analyzing the potential criticisms of candidate Trump, internal policy documents such as recommendations on how to address politically sensitive issues, analyses of specific congressional races, and fundraising documents. Releases were organized around thematic issues such as specific states, for example, Florida and Pennsylvania, that were perceived as competitive in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Oh my God, like, can you just imagine like how terrible it is? Like the internal documents being leaked and how terrible, like you can cherry pick all this stuff to make it look so terrible, but it's just the normal way you would conduct something. It's just the spin on this is crazy. And the fact that it came out public and it didn't garner any sympathy. In fact, it's fuck them, they're assholes. Don't get me wrong, I'm not like the Hillary stan, but moving on. Beginning in late June 2016, the GRU also used the Guccifer 2.0 persona to release documents directly to reporters and other interested individuals. Specifically, on June 27, 2016, Guccifer 2.0 sent an email to the news outlet The Smoking Gun offering to provide, quote, exclusive access to some leaked emails linked to Hillary Clinton's staff, end quote. The GRU later sent the reporter a password and link to a locked portion of the DCLeaks.com website that contained an archive of emails stolen by Unit 26165 from a Clinton campaign volunteer in March 2016. That the Guccifer 2.0 persona provided reporters access to a restricted portion of the DC Leaks website tends to indicate that both personas were operated by the same or a closely related group of people. The GRU continued its release efforts through Guccifer 2.0 into August 2016. For example, on August 15, 2016, the Guccifer 2.0 persona sent a candidate for the U.S. Congress documents related to the candidate's opponent. On August 22nd, 2016, the Guccifer persona transferred approximately 2.5 gigabytes of Florida-related data stolen from the DCCC to a U.S. blogger covering Florida politics. On August 22nd, 2016, the Guccifer persona sent a U.S. reporter documents stolen from the DCCC pertaining to the Black Lives Matter movement. The GRU was also in contact through the Guccifer 2.0 persona with, redacted, a former Trump campaign member, redacted. In early August 2016, redacted. Twitter suspension of the Guccifer 2.0 Twitter account. Yeah, it doesn't make sense because you just don't have the full thing because it's redacted. After it was reinstated, GRU officers posing as Guccifer 2.0 wrote, redacted, via private message, "Thank you for writing back," quote, "Thank you for writing back. Did you find anything interesting in the docs I posted?" End quote. On August 17th, 2016, the GRU added, quote, "Please tell me if I can help you anyhow. It would be great. It would be a great pleasure to me," end quote. Damn, they just got everything botted out. On September 9th, 2016, the GRU, again, posing as Guccifer 2.0, referred to a stolen DCCC document posted online and asked, redacted, quote, "What do you think of the info on the turnout model for the Democrats' entire presidential campaign?" End quote. Redacted responded, quote, "Pretty standard," end quote. The investigation did not identify evidence of other communications between redacted and Guccifer 2.0. So there was communications between these two people, but they're saying it like wasn't enough like to do it. So this is somebody, most likely, or a member of the Trump campaign. It says it right here. A member of the Trump campaign. Wonder how it comes up here. Nice. Frustrating. We're just going to take this because there was some communication with them. The Mueller Report, I think, one of the big things about the intro was they only established what they could 100% prove, so they just didn't didn't go any further than that. And I think this is one of those examples. You have some communication, but it's not anything that they could point to as direction or anything like that. They just, I don't know. They included what they had evidence of. Definitely not some goofy hoax, though. Part, section, subsection, whatever. Who cares? 3 of this actual part 3. Use of WikiLeaks. In order to expand its interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, the GRU units transferred many of the documents they stole from the DNC and the chairman of the Clinton campaign to WikiLeaks. GRU officers used both the DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0 personas to communicate with WikiLeaks through Twitter private messaging and through encrypted channels, including possibly through WikiLeaks' private communication system. Subsection A, WikiLeaks expressed opposition toward the Clinton campaign. WikiLeaks, and particularly its founder, Julian Assange, privately expressed opposition to candidate Clinton well before the first release of stolen documents. In November 2015, Assange wrote to other members and associates of WikiLeaks that, quote, "We believe it would be much better for GOP to win. Dems plus media plus liberals would then form a bloc to reign in their worst qualities. With Hillary in charge, GOP will be pushing for her worst qualities. Dems plus media plus neoliberals will be mute. She's a bright, well-connected, sadistic sociopath," end quote. Jesus Christ, he writes like a fucking, he writes like a madman, whoever put that in. In March 2016, WikiLeaks released a searchable archive of approximately 30,000 Clinton emails that had been obtained through FOIA litigation. While designing the archive, one WikiLeaks member explained the reason for building the archive to another associate. This is a quote from them, I believe. "We want this repository to become, quote, the place, end quote, to search for background on Hillary's plotting at the State Department during 2009 to 2013. Firstly, because it's useful and will annoy Hillary, but secondly, because we want to be seen a resource player, to be seen to be a resource player in the U.S. election, because it may encourage people to send us even more important leaks," end quote. Subsection B, WikiLeaks' first contact with Guccifer 2.0 and DC Leaks. Shortly after the GRU's first release of stolen documents through DCLeaks.com in June 2016, GRU officers also used the DC Leaks persona to contact WikiLeaks about possible coordination in the future release of stolen emails. On June 14, 2016, DC Leaks sent a direct message to @WikiLeaks noting, quote, "You announced your organization was preparing to publish more Hillary's emails. We are ready to support you. We have some sensitive information too, in particular, her financial documents. Let's do it together. What do you think about publishing our info at the same moment? Thank you," end quote. Redacted for investigative technique. Around the same time, WikiLeaks initiated communications with the GRU persona Guccifer 2.0 shortly after it was used to release documents stolen from the DNC. On June 22, 2016, 7 days after Guccifer 2.0's first releases of stolen DNC documents, WikiLeaks used Twitter's direct message function to contact the Guccifer 2.0 Twitter account and suggest that Guccifer 2.0, quote, "send any new material stolen from the DNC here for us to review, and it will have a much higher impact than what you're doing," end quote. On July 6, 2016, WikiLeaks again contacted Guccifer 2.0 through Twitter's private messaging function, writing, quote, "If you have anything Hillary-related, we want it in the next 2 days, preferable, because the DNC is approaching and she will solidify Bernie supporters behind her after," end quote. Holy shit. The Guccifer 2.0 persona responded, quote, "Okay, I see," end quote. WikiLeaks also explained, quote, "We think Trump has only a 25% chance of winning against Hillary, so conflict between Bernie and Hillary is interesting, end quote. Subsection C, the GRU's transfer of stolen materials to WikiLeaks. Both the GRU and WikiLeaks sought to hide their communications, which has limited the office's ability to collect all communications between them. Thus, although it is clear that the DNC and Podesta documents were transferred from the GRU to WikiLeaks, redacted for investigative techniques, the office was able to identify when the GRU, operating through its personas Guccifer 2.0 and DC Leaks, transferred some of the stolen documents to WikiLeaks through online archives set up by the GRU. Assange had access to the internet from the Ecuadorian embassy in London, England. Redacted for investigative technique. Quite a bit redacted through here. On July 14, 2016, GRU officers used a Guccifer 2.0 email account to send WikiLeaks an email bearing the subject, quote, big archive, end quote, and the message, quote, a new attempt, end quote. The email contained an encrypted attachment with the name, quote, WKDNC link1.text.gpg, end quote. Using the Guccifer 2.0 Twitter account, GRU officers sent WikiLeaks an encrypted file and instructions on how to open it. On July 18, 2016, WikiLeaks confirmed in a direct message to the Guccifer 2.0 account that it had, quote, the 1 gigabyte or so archive, end quote, and would make a release of the stolen documents, quote, this week, end quote. On July 22nd, 2016, WikiLeaks released over 20,000 emails and other documents stolen from the DNC computer networks. The Democratic National Convention began 3 days later. My goodness, like what a dagger. And remember, all a hoax. Everything's a hoax. Similar communications occurred between WikiLeaks and the GRU-operated persona DC Leaks. On September 15th, 2016, @DCLeaks wrote to @WikiLeaks, quote, hi there, I'm from DCLeaks. How could we discuss some submission-related issues? Am trying to reach out to you via your secured chat, but getting no response. I've got something that might interest you. You won't be disappointed, I promise, end quote. The WikiLeaks account responded, quote, hi there, end quote, without further elaboration. The @DCLeaks account did not respond immediately. The same day, the Twitter account @Guccifer sent @DCLeaks a direct message, which is the first known contact between the personas. During subsequent communications, the Guccifer 2.0 persona informed DCLeaks that WikiLeaks was trying to contact DCLeaks and arrange for a way to speak through encrypted emails. Oh, what a mouthful. An analysis of the metadata collected from the WikiLeaks site revealed that the stolen Podesta emails show a creation date of September 19th, 2016. Based on information about Assange's computer and its possible operating system, this date may be when the GRU staged the stolen Podesta emails for transfer to WikiLeaks, as the GRU had previously done in July 2016 for the DNC emails. The WikiLeaks site also released PDFs and other documents taken from Podesta that were attachments to emails in his account. Those documents had a creation date of October 2nd, 2016, which appears to be the date the attachments were separately staged by WikiLeaks on its site. Beginning on September 20th, 2016, WikiLeaks and DCLeaks resumed communications in a brief exchange. On September 22nd, 2016, a DCLeaks email account, dcleaksproject@gmail.com, sent an email to a WikiLeaks account with the subject, quote, submission, end quote, and the message, quote, hi from DCLeaks, end quote. The email contained a PGP encrypted message with the file name, quote, wiki_mail.txt.gpg, end quote. Redacted for investigative technique. The email, however, bears a number of similarities to the July 14, 2016 email in which GRU officers used the Guccifer 2.0 persona to give WikiLeaks access to the archives of DNC files. On September 22nd, 2016, the same day of the DCLeaks email to WikiLeaks, the Twitter account @DCLeaks sent a single message to @WikiLeaks with the string of characters redacted for investigative technique. Some sketchy shit going on. The office cannot rule out that the stolen documents were transferred to WikiLeaks through intermediaries who visited during the summer of 2016. For example, public reporting identified Andrew Mueller Magoon as a WikiLeaks associate who may have assisted with the transfer of these stolen documents to WikiLeaks. Redacted for investigative technique. On October 7th, 2016, WikiLeaks released the first email stolen from the Podesta email account. In total, WikiLeaks released 32 tranches of stolen emails between October 7th, 2016 and November 7th, 2016. I thought it was going to be another year. The releases included private speeches given by Clinton, internal communications between Podesta and other high-ranking members of the Clinton campaign, and correspondence related to the Clinton Foundation. In total, WikiLeaks released over 50,000 documents stolen from Podesta's personal email account. The last in time email release from Podesta's account was dated March 21st, 2016, 2 days after Podesta received a spear phishing email sent by the GRU. Subsection D, WikiLeaks statements dissembling about the source of stolen materials. As reports attributing the DNC and DCCC hacks to the Russian government emerged, WikiLeaks and Assange made several public statements apparently designed to obscure the source of the materials that WikiLeaks was releasing. The file transfer evidence described above and other information uncovered during this investigation discredit WikiLeaks' claims about the source of the material that it posted. Beginning in the summer of 2016, Assange and WikiLeaks made a number of statements about Seth Rich, a former DNC staff member who was killed in July 2016. The statements about Rich implied falsely that he had been the source of the stolen DNC emails. On August 9, 2016, the @WikiLeaks Twitter account posted, quote, "Announce, WikiLeaks has decided to issue U.S. $20,000 reward for information leading to the conviction for the murder of DNC staffer Seth Rich," end quote. Likewise, on August 25th, 2016, Assange was asked in an interview, quote, "Why are you so interested in Seth Rich's killer," end quote. And he responded, quote, "We're very interested in anything that might be a threat to alleged WikiLeaks sources," end quote. The interviewer responded to Assange's statement by commenting, quote, "I know you don't want to reveal your source, but it certainly sounds like you're suggesting a man who leaked information to WikiLeaks was then murdered," end quote. Assange replied, quote, if there's someone who's potentially connected to our publication and that person has been murdered in suspicious circumstances, it doesn't necessarily mean the two are connected. But it is a very serious matter. That type of allegation is very serious, as it's taken very seriously by us," end quote. What a fucking scumbag. And I'm pretty sure, by the way, this is the guy who said, why did you release him on that? And he's like, the Republicans are so bad, everybody knows they're bad, I'm not going to release anything on them. I'm just going to release stuff on the Democrats. Like, what a fucking, what a real reporter you are. What a real truth sayer you are, you piece of shit. And then just lies about that, by the way. After the U.S. intelligence community publicly announced its assessment that Russia was being behind the hacking operation, Assange continued to deny that the Clinton materials released by WikiLeaks had come from Russian hacking. According to media reports, Assange told a U.S. congressman that the DNC hack was, quote, an, quote, inside job, end quote, and purported to have, quote, physical proof, end quote, that the Russians did not give materials to Assange. He has that to prove a negative. Nice. Part C. Additional GRU cyber operations. While releasing the stolen emails and documents through DC Leaks, Guccifer 2.0, and WikiLeaks, GRU officers continued to target and hack victims linked to the Democratic campaign and eventually to target entities responsible for election administration in several states. Subsection 1. Summer and fall 2016 operations targeting Democrat-linked victims. On July 27, 2016, Unit 26165 targeted email accounts connected to candidate Clinton's personal office. Earlier that day, candidate Trump made public statements that included the following, quote, "Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find 30,000 emails that you're missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press," end quote. The, quote, 30,000 emails, end quote, were apparently a reference to emails described in media accounts as having been stored on a personal server that candidate Clinton had used while serving as Secretary of State. Sounds like he threw out so much shit he saved himself. Within approximately 5 hours of Trump's statement, GRU officers targeted for the first time Clinton's personal office. After candidate Trump's remarks, Unit 26165 created and sent malicious links targeting 15 email accounts at the domain, redacted, including an email account belonging to the Clinton aide, redacted. The investigation did not find evidence of earlier GRU attempts to compromise accounts hosted on this domain. It is unclear how the GRU was able to identify these email accounts, which were not public. It's like, oh yeah, they found a way to be smarter and not do the shit out in the open. Unit 26165 officers also hacked into a DNC account hosted on a cloud computing service, redacted. On September 20th, 2016, the GRU began to generate copies of the DNC data using redacted function designed to allow users to produce backups of databases referred to, redacted, as, quote, snapshots, end quote. The GRU then stole those snapshots by moving them to redacted account that they controlled. From there, the copies were moved to GRU-controlled computers. The GRU stole approximately 300 gigabytes of data from the DNC cloud-based account. Subsection 2? Intrusions targeting the administration of U.S. elections. This is important stuff because this is way back when. I wonder what's going on now. In addition to targeting individuals involved in the Clinton campaign, GRU officers also targeted individuals and entities involved in the administration of the elections. Victims included U.S. state and local entities, such as state boards of elections, SBOEs, secretaries of state, and county governments, as well as individuals who worked for those entities. The GRU also targeted private technology firms responsible for manufacturing and administering election-related software and hardware, such as voter registration software and electronic polling stations. The GRU continued to target these victims through the elections in November 2016. While the investigation identified evidence that the GRU targeted these individuals and entities, the office did not investigate further. Why not? The office did not, for instance, obtain or examine servers or other relevant items belonging to these victims. The office understands that the FBI, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and the states have separately investigated that activity. Okay, got you. I was about to say. Why wouldn't you? But we will copy that because it is kind of crazy that they were going after the elections directly, and this is back in 2016. What are they doing now, almost 10 years later? How much more have they advanced? And if I don't know if we have to look at this every day, but this is a big one. Trump administration retreats in the fight against cybercrime. Pete Hegseth announces that we're going to be spending less on cyber defense. These things matter, especially when you go to assess your ability to defend yourself. Oh. By at least the summer of 2016, GRU officers sought access to state and local computer networks by exploiting known software vulnerabilities on websites of state and local government entities. GRU officers, for example, targeted state and local databases of registered voters using a technique known as, quote, SQL injection, end quote, by which malicious code was sent to the state and local website in order to run commands such as exfiltrating the database contents. In one instance, in approximately June 2016, the GRU compromised the computer network of the Illinois State Board of Elections by exploiting a vulnerability in the SBOE's website. The GRU then gained access to a database containing information on millions of registered Illinois voters and extracted data related to those thousands of U.S. voters before malicious activity was identified. My goodness, can't read today. GRU officers, redacted, scanned state and local websites for vulnerabilities. For example, over a 2-day period in July 2016, GRU officers, redacted, for vulnerabilities on website of more than 24 states, redacted. Holy shit. It's more than half the states. Bunch of stuff redacted. Similar, redacted, for vulnerabilities continued through the election. Unit 74455 also sent spear phishing emails to public officials involved in election administration and personnel at companies involved in voting technology. In August 2016, GRU officers targeted employees of, redacted, a voting technology company that developed software used by numerous U.S. counties to manage voter rolls and installed malware on the company network. Similarly, in November 2016, the GRU sent spear phishing emails to over 120 email accounts used by Florida county officials responsible for administering the 2016 U.S. election. The spear phishing emails contained an attached Word document coded with malicious software, commonly referred to as a Trojan, that permitted the GRU to access the infected computer. The FBI was separately responsible for this investigation. We understand the FBI believes that this operation enabled the GRU to gain access to the network of at least one Florida county government. The office did not independently verify that belief and, as explained above, did not undertake the investigative steps that would be necessary to do so. Part D. Trump campaign and the dissemination of hacked materials. The Trump campaign showed interest in WikiLeaks releases of hacked materials throughout the summer of fall 2016. A whole bunch is redacted through here. So this is D, and then looks like a part 1, and then a subsection A background. And again, we're still in part 3, but that whole background bit has been redacted, and it looks like quite a bit of this part is redacted. So jumping right past background because it's all redacted to subsection B. Contacts with campaign about WikiLeaks, mostly redacted this paragraph, but at the end, on June 12, 2016, Assange claimed in a televised interview to, quote, have emails relating to Hillary Clinton, which are pending publication, end quote, but provided no additional context. By the way, it does bug the absolute shit out of me. To anybody who's wondering, why we're going over and stuff like this, does it ever bug you that Trump never once talks about securing elections? Like all day, Democrats can steal them. Russia, obviously is doing their bit to meddle. At the very least trying. You're seeing successful attempts to get malware onto systems. They're affecting at least the election workers, if not the elections themselves. And they've done so we've known about it for at least 10 years. And not one single talk of securing elections. Not one talk of how to make things better. They're talking about restricting the voting that you can do, and like people who can vote in person not being able to vote in person, but that's not secure. That's not anything like that. You're talking about doing away with mail-in voting. It's not really going after what you're talking about when we have evidence of them going after the systems. They're going after the party members. You just don't care because they're attacking the other party. I wonder how that'll work out for you. In debriefings with the office, because that's the thing, because just piggybacking off what we talked about at terrorists, say you do find a way to find some stability after this. I don't think you will, because the Republicans don't know how to govern. But say you do ever find stability, that's not in Putin's interest. As soon as you become not in Putin's interest, he's not going to want you anymore, and he's going to be just as dedicated to getting you out of office as the next guy, especially if he knows it's this easy, especially if you willingly back him off elections and stuff like that. He'll let you be, but he doesn't want to let you get too strong. It's just deals between idiots, just a bunch of idiots on the board making deals, but they're the ones that are in charge, so we all got to deal with the fallout. In debriefings with the office, former deputy campaign chairman Rick Gates said that, heavily redacted, Gates recalled candidate Trump being generally frustrated that the Clinton emails had not been found. Paul Manafort, who would later become a campaign chairman, heavily redacted. All right, we're going to get this one. So down here you see 2 of the guilty pleas. So we're just going to take those. Gates pleaded guilty and Manafort pleaded guilty. Manafort, I know for sure, was pardoned. So we're going to read through these footnotes here. In February 2018, Gates pleaded guilty pursuant to a plea agreement to a superseding criminal information charging him with conspiring to defraud and commit multiple offenses against the United States, as well as making false statements to our office. So those, for example, were tax fraud, failure to report foreign bank accounts, and acting as an unregistered agent of a foreign principal. Wow, that's a crazy thing to admit in the course of this investigation. That is a Russia hoax. Remember, this is all a hoax. All right, now we'll read the Manafort one. As explained further in Volume 1, Manafort entered into a plea agreement with our office. We determined that he breached the agreement by being untruthful in proffer sessions and before the grand jury. We have generally recounted his version of events in this report only when his statements are sufficiently corroborated to be trustworthy, to identify issues on which Manafort's untruthful responses may themselves be of evidentiary value, or to provide Manafort's explanation for certain events, even when we were unable to determine whether that explanation was credible. His account appears principally because it aligns with those of other witnesses. So they don't trust this guy, but he entered into a plea agreement and then ended up getting a pardon because he's a fucking liar, and you can't lie. Michael Cohen, former executive vice president of the Trump Organization and special counsel to Donald J. Trump, told the office that he recalled an incident in which he was in candidate Trump's office in Trump Tower. Heavily redacted. Cohen further told the office that after WikiLeaks' subsequent release of stolen DNC emails in July 2016, candidate Trump said to Cohen something to the effect of, heavily redacted, heavily redacted. According to Gates, Manafort expressed excitement about the release, redacted. Manafort, for his part, told the office that shortly after WikiLeaks' July 22nd release, Manafort also spoke with candidate Trump, heavily redacted. Manafort also redacted, wanted to be kept apprised of any developments with WikiLeaks, and separately told Gates to keep in touch, redacted, about future WikiLeaks releases. According to Gates, by the late summer of 2016, the Trump campaign was planning a press strategy, a communications campaign, and messaging based on possible release of Clinton's emails by WikiLeaks, heavily redacted, while Trump and Gates were driving to LaGuardia Airport. Shortly after the call, candidate Trump told Gates that more releases of damaging information would be coming. So, oh my gosh, so Trump was having a call with somebody that they don't know who it was, bunch of heavily redacted stuff, and then this guy who ended up getting away, not like getting away, but like cooperated so they could get this and put this in there, is saying that Trump got a call and then knew that these were coming. I don't know, man. Sounds like coordination to me. Goes to subsection C, bunch of other stuff. Heavily redacted. Corsi is an author who holds a doctorate in political science. In 2016, Corsi also worked for the media outlet World Net Daily, WND. Heavily redacted, heavily redacted, heavily redacted. Corsi told the office during interviews that he, quote, must have, end quote, previously discussed Assange with Malik. Bunch of stuff heavily redacted, then grand jury redacted. According to Malik, Corsi asked him to put Corsi in touch with Assange, whom Corsi wished to interview. Malik recalled that Corsi also suggested that individuals in the, quote, orbit, quote, end quote, of UK politician Nigel Farage might be able to contact Assange, and asked if Malik knew them. Malik told Corsi that he would think about the request, but he made no actual attempt to connect Corsi with Assange. Heavily redacted, heavily redacted, heavily redacted. I'm getting to the end of my rope here. I maybe got like 5 more minutes of this. Just so everybody's aware, we're probably going to switch over to some games, have some fun, so I don't lose my mind. Malik stated to investigators that beginning in or about August 2016, he and Corsi had multiple FaceTime discussions about WikiLeaks, redacted, had made a connection to Assange, and that he hacked emails of John Podesta the hacked emails of John Podesta would be released prior to Election Day and would be helpful to the Trump campaign. In one conversation, in or around August or September 2016, Corsi told Malik that the release of the Podesta emails was coming, after which, quote, we, end quote, were going to be in the driver's seat. heavily redacted, grand jury, heavily redacted. Whole pages gone from that section C. So somebody got something. Grand jury and all that goodness. But now we're in subsection D. WikiLeaks, October 7th, 2016, release of stolen Podesta emails. On October 7th, 2016, 4 days after the Assange press conference, redacted, the Washington Post published an Access Hollywood video that captured moments by candidate Trump some years earlier and that was expected to adversely affect the campaign. Less than an hour after the video's publication, WikiLeaks released the first set of emails stolen by the GRU from the account of Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta. Heavily redacted. Of course, he said that because he had no direct means of communicating with WikiLeaks, he told members of the news site WND, who were participating on a conference call with him that day, to reach Assange immediately. Corsi claimed that the pressure was enormous and recalled telling the conference call the Access Hollywood tape was coming. Corsi stated that he was convinced that his efforts had caused WikiLeaks to release the emails when they did. In a later November 2018 email, Corsi stated that he thought he had told people on a WND conference call about the forthcoming tape and had sent out a tweet asking whether anyone could contact Assange, but then said that maybe he had done nothing. The office investigated Corsi's allegations about the events of October 7th, 2016, but found little corroboration for his allegations about the day. Heavily redacted. However, the phone records themselves do not indicate that the conversation was with any of the reporters who broke the Access Hollywood story, and the office had not otherwise been able to identify the substance of the conversation. Heavily redacted, or I guess just regular redacted. However, the office has not identified any conference call participant or anyone who spoke to Corsi that day who says that they received non-public information about the tape from Corsi or acknowledged having contacted a member of WikiLeaks on October 7th, 2016, after a conversation with Corsi. Subsection E. Donald Trump Jr. interaction with WikiLeaks. Donald Trump Jr. had direct electronic communications with WikiLeaks during the campaign period. On October 20th, 2016, an individual named Jason Fishbein sent WikiLeaks the password for an unlaunched website focused on Trump's, quote, unprecedented and dangerous ties, end quote, ties to Russia. PutinTrump.org, WikiLeaks publicly tweeted, quote, let's bomb Iraq, progress for America PAC to launch, quote, PutinTrump.org, end quote, at 9:30. Oops, P-word is, quote, Putin Trump, end quote, Putin.org, end quote. Fuck me, I hate reading stuff that they send. It's literal cancer. Several hours later, WikiLeaks sent a Twitter direct message to Donald Trump Jr., quote, a PAC-run anti-Trump site, PutinTrump.org, is about to launch. The PAC is Recycled Pro-Iraq War PAC. We have guessed the password. It is, quote, Putin Trump, end quote. See, quote, about, end quote, for who is behind it. Any comments? End quote. Several hours later, Trump Jr. emailed a variety of senior campaign staff. Guys, got a weird Twitter DM from WikiLeaks. See below. I tried the password and it works. And the About section they reference contains the next pick in terms of who is behind it. Not sure if this is anything, but it seems like it's really WikiLeaks. Ask me as I follow them, and it is a DM. Do you know the people mentioned and what conspiracy they are looking for could be? These are just screenshots, but a fully built out page claiming to be a PAC. Let me know your thoughts and if we want to look at it. God damn it. Reading anything by these people is just like cancer. They're just fucking morons. I just can't. Trump Jr. attached a screenshot of the, quote, about, end quote, page for the unlaunched site, PutinTrump.org. The next day, after the website launched publicly, Trump Jr. sent a direct message to WikiLeaks, quote, off the record, I don't know who that is, but I'll ask around. Thanks, end quote. On October 3rd, 2016, WikiLeaks sent another direct message to Trump Jr. asking, quote, you guys, end quote, to help disseminate a link alleging candidate Clinton had advocated using a drone to target Julian Assange. Trump Jr. responded that he already, quote, had done so, end quote, and asked, what's behind this Wednesday leak I keep reading about, end quote. WikiLeaks did not respond. On October 12th, 2016, WikiLeaks wrote again that it was, quote, great to see you and your dad talking about our publications. Strongly suggest your dad tweets this link if he mentions us. Has the link, end quote. WikiLeaks wrote that the link would help Trump in, quote, digging through, end quote, leaked emails and stated, quote, we just released Podesta emails part 4, end quote. 2 days later, Trump Jr. publicly tweeted the link. All right, that's part 2. I don't see a good stopping point other than this one anytime soon. Actually, we're going to push through. There is a good stopping point up here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to step out and be right back. I think we can push through to part 4 here. Boom. 1 second. I'll be right back. And we're back. All right. We got a little bit more to push through for this part here. It's not heavily redacted, so we should be able to rip through it fairly quickly. And then they have a little sum up at the end of this part. And then we'll be pushed through to part 4 next time. So we will just rip through this. Hooah! This is subsection whatever, part 2, other potential campaign interest into hacked materials. So got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more pages, everybody. We'll rip through this and then we'll play some games. How's that sound? Sounds like a plan to me. Sounds like we earned it. For those following along, this is 69 of the PDF. We are on page 61 of the document. Subsection 2 of part 3, whole bunch of labels and whatnot, but if you're following along, here we go. Other potential campaign interest in Russian hacked materials. Throughout 2016, the Trump campaign expressed interest in Hillary Clinton's private email server and whether approximately 30,000 emails from that server had in fact been permanently destroyed, as reported by the media. Several individuals associated with the campaign were contacted in 2016 about various efforts to obtain the missing Clinton emails and other stolen material in support of the Trump campaign. Some of these contacts were met with skepticism, and nothing came of them. Others were pursued to some degree. The investigation did not find evidence that the Trump campaign recovered any such Clinton emails, or that these contacts were made, or these contacts were part of a coordinated effort between Russia and the Trump campaign. Subsection A, Henry Oknieski, aka Henry Greenberg. In the spring of 2016, Trump campaign advisor Michael Caputo learned through a Florida-based Russian business partner that another Florida-based Russian, Henry Oknieski, who also went by the name Henry Greenberg, claimed to have information pertaining to Hillary Clinton. Caputo notified Roger Stone and brokered communication between Stone and Oknieski. Oknieski and Stone set up a May 2016 in-person meeting. Oknieski was accompanied to the meeting by Alexei Razin, a Ukrainian associate involved in Florida real estate. At the meeting, Razin offered to sell Stone derogatory information on Clinton that Razin claimed to have obtained while working for Clinton. Razin claimed to possess financial statements demonstrating Clinton's involvement in money laundering with Razin's companies. According to Oknieski, Stone asked if the amounts in question totaled millions of dollars, but was told it was closer to hundreds of thousands. Stone refused the offer, stating that Trump would not pay for opposition research. Whoa, hello. Trump would not pay for opposition research. Oknieski claimed to the office that Razin's motivation was financial. According to Oknieski, Razin had tried unsuccessfully to shop the Clinton information around to other interested parties, and Oknieski would receive a cut if the information was sold. Razin is noted in public source documents as the director and or registered agent for a number of Florida companies, none of which appears to be connected to Clinton. The office found no other evidence that Razin worked for Clinton or any Clinton-related entities. In their statements to investigators, Oknieski and Caputo had contradictory recollections about the meeting. Oknieski claimed that Caputo accompanied Stone to the meeting and provided an introduction, whereas Caputo did not tell us that he attended and claimed that he was never told what information Oknieski offered. Caputo also stated that he was unaware Oknieski sought to be paid for this information until Stone informed him after the fact. The office did not locate Razin in the United States, although the office confirmed Razin has been issued a Florida driver's license. The office otherwise was unable to determine the content and origin of the information he purportedly offered to Stone. Finally, the investigation did not identify evidence of a connection between the outreach or the meeting and Russian interference efforts. Subsection B. Campaign efforts to obtain deleted Clinton emails. After candidate Trump stated on July 27, 2016, that he hoped Russia would, quote, find the 30,000 emails that are missing, end quote, Trump asked individuals affiliated with his campaign to find the deleted Clinton emails. Michael Flynn, who would later serve as national security advisor in the Trump administration, recalled that Trump made this request repeatedly, and Flynn subsequently contacted multiple people in an effort to obtain the emails. Barbara Ledeen and Peter Smith were among the people contacted by Flynn. Ledeen, a longtime Senate staffer who had previously sought the Clinton emails, provided updates to Flynn about her efforts throughout the summer of 2016. Smith, an investment advisor who was active in Republican politics, also attempted to locate and obtain the deleted Clinton emails. Ledeen began her efforts to obtain the Clinton emails before Flynn's request as early as December 2015. On December 3rd, 2015, she emailed Smith a proposal to obtain the emails stating, quote, here is the proposal I briefly mentioned to you. The person I described to you would be happy to talk with you either in person or over the phone. The person can get the emails which, 1, were classified, and 2, were purloined by our enemies. That would demonstrate what needs to be demonstrated, end quote. Attached to the email was a 25-page proposal stating that the, quote, Clinton email server was, in all likelihood, breached long ago, end quote, and that the Chinese, Russian, and Iranian intelligence services could, quote, reassemble the server's email content, end quote. The proposal called for a 3-phase approach. The first 2 phases consisted of open source analysis. The third phase consisted of checking with certain intelligence sources, quote, that have access through liaison work with various foreign services, end quote, to determine if any of those services had gotten to the server. The proposal noted, quote, even if a single email was recovered and provided, and the provenance of the email was a foreign service, it would be catastrophic to the Clinton campaign, end quote. Smith forwarded the email to 2 colleagues and wrote, quote, we can discuss to whom it should be referred, end quote. On December 16, 2015, Smith informed Ledeen that he declined to participate in her, quote, initiative, end quote. According to one of Smith's business associates, Smith believed Ledeen's initiative was not viable at that time. Just 2 weeks after Trump's July 2016 request to find the Clinton emails, however, Smith tried to locate and obtain the emails himself. He created a company, raised tens of thousands of dollars, and recruited security experts and business associates. Smith made claims to others involved in the effort and those from whom he sought funding that he was in contact with hackers with, quote, ties and affiliations to Russia, end quote, who had access to the emails, and that his efforts were coordinated with the Trump campaign. That's crazy. Just going to snag that real quick. On August 28, 2016, Smith sent an email from an encrypted account with the subject, quote, Secretary Clinton's unsecured private email server, end quote, to an undisclosed list of recipients, including campaign co-chairman Sam Clovis. The email stated that Smith was, quote, just finishing 2 days of sensitive meetings here in D.C. with involved groups to poke and probe on the above. It is clear that the Clinton home-based unprotected server was hacked with ease by both state-related players and private mercenaries, parties with varying interest and circling to the release ahead of the election. Are circling. Parties with varying interests are circling to release ahead of the election. End quote. On September 2nd, 2016, Smith directed a business associate to establish KLS Research, LLC, in furtherance of his search for the deleted Clinton emails. One of the purposes of KLS Research was to manage the funds Smith raised in support of his initiative. KLS Research received over $30,000 during the presidential campaign, although Smith represented that he raised even more money. Smith recruited multiple people for his initiative, including security experts to search for and authenticate the emails. In early September 2016, as a part of his recruitment and fundraising effort, Smith circulated a document stating that his initiative was, quote, in coordination, end quote, with the Trump campaign, quote, to the extent permitted as an individual expenditure organization, end quote. The document listed multiple individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign, including Flynn, Clovis, Bannon, and Kellyanne Conway. The investigation established that Smith communicated with at least Flynn and Clovis about his search for the deleted Clinton emails, but the office did not identify evidence that any of the listed individuals initiated or directed Smith's efforts. In September 2016, Smith and Ledeen got back in touch with each other about their respective efforts. Ledeen wrote to Smith, quote, wondering if you had some more detailed reports or memos or other data you could share, because we have a long way in our efforts since we last visited. We have come a long way in our efforts since we last visited. We would need as much technical discussion as possible so we could marry it against the new data we have found, and then we could share it back to you, quote, you're ours only, end all quotes. Ledeen claimed to have obtained a trove of emails from what she described as, quote, the dark web, end quote, that purported to be the deleted Clinton emails. Ledeen wanted to authenticate the emails and solicited contributions to fund that effort. Eric Prince provided funding to hire a tech advisor to ascertain the authenticity of the emails. According to Prince, the tech advisor determined that the emails were not authentic. A backup of Smith's computer contained 2 files that had been downloaded from WikiLeaks and that were originally attached to emails received by John Podesta. The files on Smith's computer had creation dates of October 2nd, 2016, which was prior to the date of their release by WikiLeaks. Forensics examination, however, established that the creation date did not reflect when the files were downloaded to Smith's computer. It appears the creation date was when WikiLeaks staged the documentation for release, as discussed in Volume 1. The investigation did not otherwise identify evidence that Smith obtained the files before their release by WikiLeaks. Smith continued to send emails to an undisclosed recipient list about Clinton's deleted emails until shortly before the election. For example, on October 28, 2016, Smith wrote that there was, quote, a, quote, tug of war going on within WikiLeaks over its planned releases in the next few days, end quote, and that WikiLeaks, quote, has maintained that it will save its best revelations for last under the theory this allows little time for response prior to the U.S. election November 8th, end quote. An attachment to the email claimed that WikiLeaks would release, quote, all 33,000 deleted emails, end quote, by, quote, November 1st, end quote. No emails obtained from Clinton's server were subsequently released. Smith drafted multiple emails stating and Smith drafted multiple emails stating and intimating that he was in contact with Russian hackers. For example, in one such email, Smith claimed that in August 2016, KLS Research had organized meetings with parties who had access to the deleted Clinton emails, including parties with, quote, ties and affiliations to Russia, end quote. The investigation did not identify evidence that any such meetings occurred. Associates and security experts who worked with Smith on the initiative did not believe that Smith was in contact with Russian hackers and were aware of no such connection. I mean, yeah, but they're security experts, right? And they wouldn't snitch. I don't know. The investigation did not establish that Smith was in contact with Russian hackers or that Smith, Ledeen, or other individuals in touch with the Trump campaign ultimately obtained the deleted Clinton emails. I think it'd be really sketchy if these people kept showing up and that's just, yeah, they're good at doing their crimes. It's like, yeah, they didn't email about it. It's like, is that really a big accomplishment? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. In sum, the investigation established that the GRU hacked into email accounts of persons affiliated with the Clinton campaign, as well as the computers of the DNC and DCCC. The GRU then exfiltrated data related to the 2016 election from these accounts and computers and disseminated that data through fictitious online personas, DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0, and later through WikiLeaks. The investigation also established that the Trump campaign displayed interest in the WikiLeaks releases and that, redacted, as explained in Volume 1, the evidence was sufficient to support computer intrusion and other charges against GRU officers for their role in election-related hacking. And that is the end of Part 3. And remember, there is enough evidence to say that the Russians were trying to hack into our election. And what do they think it's going to be? Yeah, they're going to be attacking one side or the other. They're not necessarily going to be attacking election integrity as a whole or anything like that. I think it's a little silly to think that it's always going to be that way. And, oh, if they didn't attack me directly, then it doesn't count. I think that's also a very silly way to go about this. It's unfortunate that so many people are unwilling to read this. I mean, we're chunking our way through it. This is part 3 of what may end up being 10 parts, but we're going to get through the Mueller report. And when people say Russia, 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 when people say the goofy, hoax that this was, and the Clinton emails, and they don't even know what they're talking about, it would be pretty crazy. And I know we go blue in the face saying it, but if it was the other way around, you would just never hear the end of it. If it was, Hillary got the win because Trump was pushed against, the campaign was affected and multiple sources, WikiLeaks, working against him to release documents that Russia had hacked, you would just never hear the end of it. But since it worked in his favor, he gets to say Russia, Russia, Russia. In fact, the other day he even said that Putin was a victim of this, that somehow Putin was inconvenienced or something. I don't even know what I don't even know what they're trying to say anymore. But basically, that he and Putin were the victim in this whole thing, and it's just insane when you think about it. How much was discovered? The people who pled guilty, who entered plea agreements, the people who ended up getting pardons. Why did you get pardons for all this stuff? It was just a big hoax and it was just whatever. Why is it, as explained, the evidence was sufficient to support computer intrusion charges against GRU officers for their role in election-related hacking? So there was election-related hacking, and we had credible evidence of it. Why is this not the story? Why is there never any talk of securing elections after we know that they're doing this? If we know that they're doing this and we have evidence, why doesn't the administration, who says instead ignore this and it was nothing, why don't they move to secure elections in the future? Because it benefited him this once and he doesn't give a shit anymore. It's great. He's learning from Putin how to rig elections. That's much more likely. Hey, we don't want to secure them. We want them to be unsecure so that we can rig them for ourselves. And if you don't think that's an option, I think at this point you're dense. If you don't think it's at least an option, that because think about it, they're breaking every law that you can think of when it comes to governance, when it comes to administration and how they're doing things, and firing and cuts and hiring. They're trying to break every rule. I just heard the other day he's trying to go past the Senate again when it comes to being able to appoint without the advice and the consent of Senate. There are so many things that are across the line. Why do you think he would stop at rigging elections? He already tried to rig one election. He already tried to steal one. What makes you think he would ever stop at another one? As he breaks all these laws, what makes you think that he won't when he has more opportunity to do so than he did last time? Why wouldn't he do it this time?